The front page of the Daily Nation, Somalia answers Kenya on oil blocks, and of course the statement from Mogadishu came just a day after Kenya also issued one under Foreign Affairs PS Macharia Kamau. Now let me seek your sentiments here, Dr. And of course we have seen this come at the time when there is case at the ICJ, the International Court of Justice. Of course, we will want to circumspect around the nitty-gritties because it's a court matter. But looking at the sense of political relations per se, which existed between Mogadishu and Somalia, Kenya's commitment to have KDF in Somalia, part of the stabilizing AMISOM mission, and now what is brewing in the political pot. Is there a way out of this, and to what extent can the both leadership of the two governments ensure that all that is at stake or play rather here is the long-standing diplomatic relations between the two nations?
You know, I think it's quite unfortunate that there's already an exchange of statements from both governments, especially at a time when there's already a dispute before a competent court of international jurisdiction. So that for me is very, very unfortunate. But I'm also aware that Kenya is way ahead in terms of winning that case, and maybe Somalia's action is just the usual belligerent actions within Somalia itself. And I think for me it is utter disrespect for diplomacy, which Somalia would have given the ICJ the opportunity to be able to rule with some finality about this. And you know, this is really a historical problem. The border between Kenya and Somalia is one of the ones that has not been mathematically demarcated for the longest time, since I think times of independence. And this is something that we need to look carefully now. And I think exchange, withdrawal of ambassadors still doesn't help. I think it heightens tensions. But you see, it also spoils relationship. Remember, I think Kenya has been very kind to Somalia. I mean, some of us have been very critical. I mean, you may recall in our 2017 campaign, I had actually said that, you know, I wouldn't waste a day longer, but withdraw our troops from Somalia. So you can imagine now, this is almost coming true to some of us who do not believe that we don't really need to be inside Somalia in the first place. But now with these tensions, it's even you know, making it almost right that we don't have to massage each other. Kenya has been very kind to Somalia. I think, you know, so I know Somaliland has been begging us to open up an office in Hargeisa. We've refused because out of respect for the Federal Republic of Somalia, even though Kenya has allowed Somaliland to have a liaison office here in Nairobi. So you can see, I mean, I think Somalia is pushing Kenya to make certain decisions, some of which will be let's strengthen our ties with Somaliland, let's withdraw our troops from Somalia. It might also result into the unfair punishment of immigrants who are enjoying peace here in Kenya. So it's unfortunate, but I wish the two governments would give the ICJ the opportunity to actually be able to determine this matter with some finality. The two countries can still decide, you know what, let's not take this case to the ICJ and let's agree or follow international law.
Out of court settlement.
Exactly,
right.
we can still do that.
Okay.
Okay, Ayub, if you allow me to pose this question to Honorable Farah Malim, and basically picking up from what, of course, the able panel has, highlighted on the question of, bringing aboard other issues that we are having. You know, we're not discussing about this issue, this dispute that is there between Somalia and Kenya alone. We have a couple of others, and brings the question as to why is it that it has become very hard for Africa, to have its own proper, set up a justice system to address some of these issues that we have today. Because when we are talking about the International Court of Justice, I am not convinced that we'd probably go to a level whereby we're going to get justice dispensed as expected. There's going to be that aspect of, international interest and all that. And this, for a long time, has been something that has destabilized the activities in Africa as we speak today. Interference, foreign interference and everything. So what are the likelihoods that we're going to get justice out of this moving forward? And moving forward again, what then can Africa do to ensure that we have a justice system that is stable enough to address issues that are meant for Africa, Africans for Africa, addressing our very own issues? Because as it stands, we've not been able, and I think that's why we've been having issues with ICC even as it stands today.
Matters that involve national security and sovereignty and, the patriotism, they're by and large not that rational always, extremely irrational. I mean, take a look at what happened in the so-called weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. I mean, the whole Western world was united because it's like, this guy is going to come and destroy us. So we better get him before it's too late. It turns out this was all done by a very special interest group who had their own issues for that, people's arms merchants, big, what do you call, manufacturers of people who basically thrive on that, and then the states and they're all over in a number of countries in the world. To be very honest to you, it's very, very difficult to get objective here and get very rational and honest. If I get very honest, who has auctioned any blocks? I mean, this is a public knowledge. Somalia has not auctioned blocks. What they did is that they sent a team that was given this mandate by the previous president, not the current president, to carry out seismic data on the available resources within Somalia itself. And they deliberately avoided the blocks that are in dispute. That data for those blocks has never been presented. So where we are getting all these, issues that they are coming for us, they're taking our country, they're taking our waters, I don't know, to be honest with you. And this is public knowledge, it's there. You just, Google and you'll see it. So there's too much ado about something I don't understand why. You get my point. And then we conflagrate issues. We've talked about right now. I think the people who run our foreign policy, we need to have a much more professional people than what we have right now. Because we're going to eat humble pie right now as things stand. They've come out and said, where did we auction blocks? We're not going to be able to give them that evidence. They will tell you, where have we done seismic data on the disputed area or blocks itself? So there are a number of things. That's why I'm telling you. If I now talk very objective about that and rational, somebody will say, oh, because you're an ethnic Somali yourself, how much, and it's very few people will be saying that. That nonsense always comes out. Let me tell you, we have a country here, which is our country. At the end of the day, our loyalty is here. But sometimes for us to be able to avoid some of those pitfalls that we find ourselves in, and to get our president, because the president is not supposed to do those small nitty-gritty things. He gets informed, and the presumption is that that information is solid, rock solid. But you see, when you look at the international media right now and you Google a few places, people are saying they don't understand where this whole issue comes from. So if they were going to go and carry out seismic data on the disputed blocks, we will all be up in arms today. But they haven't done that. If they had auctioned it, and we say it in our letter, they auctioned it, nothing has been auctioned for information. The auctioning itself, there's a difference between gathering the data and the auctioning will probably take another year or 2 years before they can be able to do that. Because people have to create the joint ventures, the different international...
But was the data being gathered affecting also the
What they're saying now, we have not gathered any data, any data. And this is information that's in the public domain. We can call Spectrum. It's a British company itself. You can look at their own site here, and they will show you that. So whether they are the ones who are lying and are telling us, an open lie, and the British company is also collaborating in that, or whether it's our own Minister of Foreign Affairs that is incapable of doing a sufficient research on these things and are not getting that professionally in the manner in which we handle these things, are two different matters.
Okay.
And this will all have a ramification on our own international standing. If indeed we are right, and these people have done these things, then fair enough. I stand by the positions we have taken. But if it turns out that we were actually, we were making too much ado about nothing that doesn't exist, then of course people will say, what are the underlying, what is the purpose?
Okay. There is something we are missing here. Kenya has had uncontested occupation of that economic zone as an exclusive economic zone for Kenya since 1979. And Kenya has continued to exploit this zone since 1979. Indeed, in the year 2012, Kenya did actually auction 3 of those wells to the Italians. They let them out to the Italians. And the Italians have been
Prospecting.
there.
They gave up licenses for prospection.
The Italians have been
not
there.
Auction, yeah.
And then in 2014, Somalia moves to court, the ICJ. And they take Kenya there. And when Kenya finds itself there, they've come and told Somalia, we want back our exclusive economic zone. And Somalia says no, over my dead body. Then Kenyans tell Somalia, over your dead body, yeah, that can be arranged. And I think that's what's being arranged. So for me, there is a
I mean,
crisis.
arranging a dead body.
Yes, yes, yes. You said that can be arranged, so Kenya is
Basically, what you
arranging.
started by saying that Kenya has a higher stake.
So, and for me, I
Sounds
think,
like preparation for war.
for me,
Recipe for
I think
disaster, eh?
we need to be reasonable here. Other than, you know, Somalia has, I think, one of the longest coastlines in Africa.
The longest in
Which they are not using properly because they're just selling charcoal on the bulk of it. I think if they were to concentrate on what they have first before they start, you know, it's like saying you have 200 chicken and you're aiming for your neighbor's 1 chicken and you're not even able to manage your own 200 chicken first. I think if they can use their coastline well, they have a huge coastline, and stop worrying and, you know, you're fighting with Kenya over something that you're not even going to be able to use anyway. And for me, I feel that this is not a Somali issue. Kenyans have a way of missing the mark all the time. If I was the West, and the West does want these oil wells, I would rather be leasing it or buying it from Somalia than leasing or buying it from Kenya. And that's why Kenya has lost the first 2 petitions at the ICJ. When you said we are on our way to winning it, I thought Professor Githu Muigai, with all due respect, is one of the best lawyers we've had in this country. And he went there and he defended. And he lost first, and we've lost the second time. And if we continue, we are going to lose at the ICJ. Because this case is not about us. This case is not about Kenya getting back our oil wells. This case is about some imperialists who want to buy this section, but they want to buy it from Somalia, not from Kenya. So if I was Kenya, I would reject going to ICJ. I'm a lawyer. I believe in constitutionality. I believe in the rule of law. I respect international law. But a bad law is to be disrespected. And for me, I would not go and offer myself at the altar of sacrifice by these people, because what they will do is that they will auction this thing. It will go to Somalia. You watch. And if it goes to Somalia, are we supposed to sit and celebrate? I think we need to withdraw from the ICJ, and we need to get to the point where we tell Somalia, you have a long coastline. Even when you look at that line, it looks wrong. I mean, from even a kid, you tell them that this border is supposed to go this way and not this way. It looks wrong. So I think for Kenya, we should not even waste our energy going there, because the next thing, Tanzania could wake up and say, okay, our border was 300 miles up. What are we going to do? Again, go to ICJ. I think there comes a time when you tell people we have no time to entertain this kind of nonsense, because in my view, to be honest, it is nonsense. This thing is going to go. This triangle is going to go. And an imperialist is going to take it. And they would rather buy it from Tanzania and have it. I mean, ICJ has not been able to sort out issues like Kashmir. We have the Palestine border. Israel is still at war.
Crimea.
Why are we taking ourselves there? So I think in as much as we respect the rule of law, this is not a place we want to go.
I think it's good to enlighten the viewer. Let's just first of all enlighten the viewer on this, because let's understand that the complaint was fronted by Somalia to the ICJ. So at what point is Kenya capable to go ahead and say that they're not going to go to the ICJ? First of all, there's this proposal coming from the ambassadors that we should sit down and have an amicable solution out of court. That could be an option. So what is this other option that Kenya has for the sake of the viewer out there?
You know, sometimes you choose what you want. And if you realize you're not going to get justice from the ICJ, there are many ways to go about it. If, for example, Kenya told Somalia, we are going to sever ties with you, we are not going to do A, B, C, and D with you as long as this matter is in court. You must pull the matter out of the court. It has to be Somalia pulling the matter out of court. Somalia took the matter to court. It is not for Kenya to opt not to go to court. It is for Somalia to pull the matter out of court. And Kenya must use all means at her disposal to make sure that Somalia voluntarily does go to pull the matter out of court. And finally, something he mentioned about us pulling our troops out of Somalia, I think that would be the worst decision that would make this century. Because what would happen, we still do not have a strong Somali army on the ground. And if we did so, Al-Shabaab will resurge. They will have training camps. They will have an opportunity to kill with impunity. Right now, we have 450,000 or thereabout refugees from Somalia. If Al-Shabaab is given 5 years of uninterrupted rule in Somalia or doing their things, we shall have 2 million Somali refugees in this country. Now, that will be a worse-off situation. So my feeling and contention is that as much as possible and as far as we can, let us find a way to maintain our troops in Somalia, not so much because, you see, it's not an imperialist thing. We are not there because we want to subdue.
It's the same argument you're making. If you are saying that, I mean, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. If you are saying that because, first of all, I disagree with your analysis totally, that because Somalia has a longer coastline, they must concentrate on the rest of the coastline. Supposing they're genuinely the owners of those blocks. We are not saying because Somalia has a longer coastline, so they should ignore that which belongs to them. Because like you're telling me, just because I'm not cultivating an entire acre of my land, and my neighbor has encroached into my quarter of an acre, now I should concentrate on the others. That's a very wrong analogy. Secondly, you're using the same imperialist argument to say that Somalia, maybe we mean Britain, wants to buy the oil blocks from Somalia. But you're also justifying why we, as an imperialist, quote unquote, should occupy another country. And by the way, if you look at the history of conflict in the world, occupation of another country has never been a solution. Iraq,
2003, Libya.
Afghanistan, and all those countries.